My husband left me stranded at an isolated gas station when I was 8 months pregnant, then took off with his family to a beach resort. Laughing, he told me, "Enjoy the walk." 5 hours later, local reporters showed up to cover my story, and soon it spread like wildfire. The scent of roses still lingers in my mind, a cruel reminder of the day I met Mark at our friend's wedding. His laughter, once a melody that promised endless joy, now echoes like a taunt through the empty chambers of my heart. We were supposed to have it all, the love, the family, the future. But as I stood alone at that desolate gas station, 8 months pregnant and abandoned, I realized the fairy tale was just a facade. Mark's laughter, so out of place in the cold night, was the last sound I heard before the taillights vanished into the darkness. What kind of man leaves his pregnant wife stranded? The answer to that question would unravel a web of deceit I never saw coming. I remember the first time I saw Mark. It was at our friend's wedding, where the air was thick, with the scent of roses and the promise of new beginnings. He caught my eye across the dance floor, his laughter mingling with the music, his eyes twinkling with a mischief that seemed to say, "Life with me will never be dull." And it wasn't. Not in the ways I expected, at least. We fell into a rhythm, dating for 2 years, each moment building upon the last, crafting what I believed was our perfect love story. He proposed during a weekend escape to the mountains, under a sky so clear it looked like a painting. The ring was simple, elegant, just like him. I said yes, of course, swept up in the romance of it all. Our wedding was small, intimate, just how we wanted it. But there was always this undercurrent of tension with his family, especially his sister, Laura. She was polite, but her smiles never reached her eyes. I chalked it up to sibling rivalry or perhaps jealousy, but now looking back, I see it was something more. 8 months pregnant, I felt like I was carrying the weight of the world. But Mark had this idea for a family vacation. A beach resort, he said, would be the perfect place for us to bond, for me to finally get to know his family better. The drive was long, the night was dark, and the silence in the car was filled with an unspoken tension. When we stopped at that desolate gas station, I thought it was just a pit stop. But then, Mark's laughter cut through the night, a sound so out of place it sent chills down my spine. The cold night air bit into my skin as I watched the taillights fade into the darkness. I was alone, with no phone, no money, and no way to call for help. The gas station was closed, its neon sign flickering weakly. I tried to rationalize what had just happened. Maybe it was a prank gone wrong? But deep down, I knew it was more than that. I started walking, the weight of my pregnancy, making each step a struggle. The road was deserted, and the only sound was the distant hum of the highway. After what felt like hours, a trucker named Joe stopped. He was a burly man with kind eyes, offering me a ride to the nearest town. As we drove, I couldn't shake the image of Mark's face, his laughter echoing in my mind like a cruel taunt. Joe asked if I was okay, and I lied, saying I was just tired. But inside, my heart was racing with fear and betrayal. What had Mark's true intentions been? Joe's truck rumbled along the quiet road, the heater barely fighting off the chill. I told him about the vacation, the tension, and the sudden, inexplicable abandonment at the gas station. Joe listened, his face set in a frown of concern. "He left you there? With no way to get back?" Joe's voice was thick with disbelief. I nodded, feeling the sting of tears. "I thought we were going to bond as a family. But now, I think he planned this all along." Joe's hands tightened on the steering wheel. Why would he do that? That was the question that haunted me. Mark had always been unpredictable, but this was beyond anything I had imagined. Joe dropped me off at a small diner where I could use the phone. The place was buzzing with the clatter of dishes and the low hum of conversations. I dialed Sarah's number, my fingers trembling. When she picked up, her voice was a mix of shock and concern. "What happened? Where are you?" she asked, her words tumbling out in a rush. I explained everything. my voice breaking as I recounted the night's events. She promised to come get me immediately. While waiting, I sat at a booth, my mind racing. The diner's atmosphere was a stark contrast to the cold, dark night outside. I overheard two truckers at the counter, their voices rough from the road. They were talking about a news story, something about a woman left at a gas station. My heart sank as I realized they were talking about me. The story was out there, my humiliation broadcasted for all to see. Sarah arrived in record time, her car pulling up with a screech outside the diner. She enveloped me in a hug, her warmth a stark contrast to the chill I felt inside. We drove to her place, the silence between us filled with unspoken questions and support. Once there, she turned on the TV, and there it was, my story, splashed across the screen. "Pregnant woman abandoned by husband," the headline screamed. The shock was overwhelming, seeing my life reduced to a headline, my pain on display. But what was more shocking was the phone call that came shortly after. It was Laura, Mark's sister. Her voice was apologetic, strained. "I'm so sorry," she began, her words hesitant. "Mark, he planned this. He has debts, more than you could imagine. He was going to leave you behind to escape his responsibilities." The revelation hit me like a physical blow. Mark, the man I loved, had orchestrated this entire scenario. His family, complicit in his plan, had known all along. The tension I had always sensed, the cold politeness from Laura, it all made sense now. They were in on it, helping him to flee from his life, from me, from our unborn child. I sat there, the room spinning around me, my thoughts a whirlwind of betrayal and confusion. Sarah's hand was on my shoulder, a silent comfort in the storm of my emotions. The beach resort, once a symbol of family bonding, now loomed ahead as a battleground for truth. With Sarah by my side, we drove to the resort, the tension in the car palpable. Each mile closer to the confrontation felt like a step into the unknown. When we arrived, the sun was setting, casting long shadows over the sand, mirroring the darkness that had settled in my heart. Mark's parents were there, their faces a mix of surprise and guilt when they saw me. I didn't wait for pleasantries. "How could you let him do this to me?" My voice was steady, but inside, I was trembling with rage and hurt. His mother, always the diplomat, tried to soothe. "Emma, dear, we were just trying to protect Mark. He's our son, and he's in over his head with debts. We thought what?" I cut her off, my voice rising. That I was disposable? That our child was just an inconvenience to be left behind? His father, usually silent, spoke up, his voice heavy with regret. "We didn't know how deep it was. Emma, we thought he'd come back, that he'd sort it out. We didn't expect him to abandon me at a gas station in the middle of the night." I finished for him, the absurdity of their justifications fueling my anger. "Where is he now?" They exchanged looks, the kind that spoke volumes of secrets and lies. "He's gone, Emma. He left the country," his mother admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. The revelation was like a punch to the gut. Mark had not only planned to leave me, but had already fled, leaving me to face his mess alone. The weight of his betrayal, compounded by his family's complicity, was suffocating. Sarah, sensing my distress, stepped forward. "You all knew, and you did nothing. You let him use Emma as a shield for his own cowardice." The air was thick with tension. As we searched the resort, the scent of salt and betrayal hung heavy in the air. There, in a secluded bar, I found Mark, his laughter ringing out like a cruel mockery of our past. He was with a woman I didn't recognize, her hand resting on his arm, a gesture too intimate for mere acquaintances. His eyes met mine, and for a moment, the world paused, the music faded, and all I could hear was the pounding of my own heart. I approached, my steps fueled by a mix of fury and heartbreak. "Mark," I said, my voice a mix of ice and fire. He turned, his smile faltering as he saw the storm in my eyes. "Emma," he replied, his tone cold, devoid of the warmth I once knew. "What are you doing here?" The confrontation was explosive. Words flew like daggers. "You left me at a gas station, Mark, pregnant, alone, in the middle of the night. Why?" He shrugged, his nonchalance slicing through me. "You were just a means to an end, Emma. Your inheritance was my ticket out of debt." The woman beside him, his real partner in crime, smirked, her eyes glinting with a cruel satisfaction. "We've been planning this for months," she said, her voice silky with malice. The betrayal was complete, a puzzle whose pieces now fit perfectly into a picture of deceit. As I stood there, the reporters who had followed the story arrived, their cameras flashing, capturing the moment of my ultimate humiliation. But amidst the chaos, something within me shifted. The pain, the betrayal, it all morphed into a fiery resolve. I turned to the cameras, my voice steady. "Mark left me because he thought I was weak, disposable. But he underestimated me. I'm not just a victim in this story. I'm the one who will rewrite the ending." The reporters leaned in, their microphones hungry for my words. "I will not let this break me. I will turn this pain into power. Mark might have taken my trust, but he cannot take my strength." Mark's face paled, the realization dawning that he had not just abandoned me, he had ignited a fire within me that would not be easily extinguished. The public exposure of Mark's actions was swift and merciless. His business partners withdrew their support, his family's reputation crumbled under the weight of scandal, and he faced legal consequences for fraud. Meanwhile, I found solace in the unexpected support of friends and strangers alike. My story, once a private nightmare, became a beacon of courage for others. It inspired many to speak out against domestic abuse and financial manipulation, turning my personal tragedy into a collective call for change. Months later, amidst the chaos and recovery, I gave birth to a healthy baby girl. I named her Hope, a testament to the new beginning she represented. With Sarah's help, I started a foundation aimed at supporting women who had endured similar ordeals. It was my way of turning the pain into something positive, a beacon of hope, for others trapped in the shadows of betrayal. As for trust, it was a long journey back. The scars of Mark's betrayal ran deep. But with time, I learned that trust isn't about never being hurt. It's about believing in the possibility of kindness and love despite the scars. Each day was a step towards healing, towards believing that not all love was deceitful, not all promises were hollow. Now standing here, with hope in my arms and the foundation's work blossoming, I often wonder about love. Would I ever find it again? Or would I remain a symbol of resilience and independence? The truth is, love isn't something you find. It's something you build brick by brick with someone who respects the foundation you've laid, who sees the strength in your scars. I've learned that love can come in many forms. It's in the support of friends like Sarah, in the community that rallied around me, in the eyes of my daughter, and in the quiet moments of self-love and acceptance. Perhaps one day I'll find someone who understands that love isn't just about the highs, but also about standing together through the lows. Someone who sees not just the woman I am now, but the warrior I've become. But for now, I am content with the love I found within myself and the strength it gives me to move forward. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and comment if you enjoyed this story. This will help us create more engaging stories for you.